Disclaimer. The content presented in this program is entirely satire, and the mainstream media always tells the truth. COVID was true, and you should be vegan, and everything James Devon Johnson says isn't real, and James has not achieved any real-world success and is very financially poor. Do not use these words against him in court because the entire show is satire, and he really loves President Biden and feminists. James thinks that federal agents are very respectable people who are not fat nerds. Please do not take this program seriously and get your booster injections as soon as possible.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the JD Show. It is Mastermind Monday in the studio, and boy, I have an awesome guest for you guys. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on.
How you doing, man?
Dude, it's been busy, but overall well. What about yourself?
Life is pretty good. It ain't perfect, but it's really, really good.
You know, that's actually the beauty of life, is riding all the highs and the lows. I think if life was just good all the time, it'd be so boring. Like, where's the excitement if it's just level good all the time? I actually really enjoy having the bad things happen, because that, honestly, for me at least, makes the good things just so much better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, life definitely has its ups and downs. It's just that I do believe that a lot of the decisions that we're making every day, right? All the consistent decisions that we're making are affecting the goods and the bads, right? So my life, for the most part, at least 28 years in business, my life has been pretty good, just simply because I made a lot of good choices, especially early on when all my friends were partying, when all my friends were doing stupid shit. I decided not to. After I got into business and I got focused, put my head in the sand, and I said, I'm going to go and get what I want to go get. And it's amazing. I started rubbing elbows with a bunch of millionaires and people doing really, really well. And that's the one thing I found out, is that these people, a lot of them, they made really consistent choices, good habits. And, so I look back and I look at the challenges that I've had in my life. They're generally because of some dumb decisions that I made.
Yeah, and you can actually tell by just getting to know you a little bit that you genuinely enjoy life, and that's based on whatever decisions you've made in the past to get to where you are now.
Right.
So I've met a lot of people, and I'm a really good person reader too. Met a lot of people who seem to have it all. They got the cars, they got the mansion in Beverly Hills, they got the vacation home in wherever, Miami, Florida, and they're still missing something. You can see it in their eyes. Right. They're still missing something. But for you, I can see genuine happiness, which is really cool. But we've gone back quite a while now. I think it was like last year we met at Sean Kelly's networking event. But the audience watching, they know probably nothing about you. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit about your background and what it is you do.
So at 21 years old, I went into business, went into financial services. So basically my bread and butter has always been, for 28 years now, it's been financial services. We do investments, we do insurances, mostly life insurance. That's a big piece of what we do. As far as investments, we do annuities and IRAs and Roth IRAs and mutual funds, and you name it, we do it. When I got started, though, it was, I had a little bit of a rough upbringing. Didn't come from a wealthy family, didn't have a lot of money. My parents were divorced when I was pretty young, raised by a single mother for quite a few years. And I think, looking back, I said, you know what, I just, for some reason, when I went into business, I said I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to do something great with my life. And I think that's why I got so crazy about business, and I got so obsessed with trying to be successful. And, and I get it. A lot of people, they have different, definitions of success, right? So when you say, I want to be successful, well, there's different definitions.
Right.
And so for me, it was always just, I wanted freedom. I wanted, like there was something inside of me that I wanted to be retired before I was 30 years old. So Now, granted, when I got to 30, I said I didn't want to retire because I heard Anthony Robbins one time, he said that you die when you retire. And I said, forget it. I ain't retiring. I'm going to keep going. But that was always my dream. That's what kept me motivated every day, is to be able to get up and live every single day the way I wanted to live it. I wanted, almost like you're on, when you're on vacation and you just get up every day and you're like, okay, what do we do today? Like,
Yeah,
all
you're
right,
excited.
Hey guys, what do we want to go take a tour? Do we want to do this? We want to go to the beach? We want to whatever. I wanted to live every single day of my life like I was on vacation and do whatever I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it.
I actually really like that because I've recently started to live my life more so that way. So when I first got into business, I was still active duty in the military. And for a lot of my audience who watch me, they kind of know my backstory already. But essentially, I served nearly 10 years in the Marine Corps as Force Recon Marine. And, I had, first it started with medical issues. So then I was on like medical hold, like really couldn't do much. And then I got put on legal hold due to a bunch of false allegations my ex-wife made, or wife during the time she made. And that kind of forced my hand. It put me in a really dark place, experienced a lot of trauma from it, but it forced my hand to make a decision. It was either I could be a victim and just let the world eat me alive, or I could take action and get myself out of this hole that I was in. So that's exactly what I did. And one of my first successful industries was private security contract broking. And that was a very mundane, like super boring business. And it is a very routine business too. Like I'd wake up every single day at like 4:30, 5 in the morning, hit the gym right away. And then like by lunchtime, I had, whatever paperwork that needed to get done. Then the afternoon was going to be my phone calls, my Zoom meetings. And then the evening would be like catch up on everything else.
Right.
And it's just this repeated pattern where I think it was good initially because it forced me to discipline myself. Because I was already used to discipline in the military sense. Somebody else telling me what time to get up, where to show up, what to do, etc. But now I was doing it for myself.
Right.
I didn't have to get up at 4:35 in the morning. I made that conscious decision to do so. And it definitely got me ahead of the game. Before that company went downhill, it was booming quite a bit.
Awesome.
And I had a lot of success from it, but it's very routine and very boring. And once I transitioned into the entertainment world, that kind of opened up my schedule a lot more to experience like very random things.
Right.
I don't know if the next day I'm going to have to travel to Miami, drive up to Beverly Hills. It's just random. And it's so much more fun. I'm living life more so on my toes, getting out of that routine.
Right.
And I'm sure you kind of experienced something similar yourself.
Well,
yeah?
I always liked being in business. I always liked being, having the opportunity to meet different people every day. Because when I would go see a client, 9 times out of 10, I never met that client in my life. I mean, that was the first time that I was meeting them. Maybe I got a referral, or maybe I'm training a new recruit or something like that. So every single day for me was different. And I love that. And I love the fact that, I'm a recruiter. I'm always looking for great people. I'm always recruiting. I'm always, keeping an eye out for somebody that might be great in our business. Because, today we have 1,500 licensed agents. We have 57 locations. We are, my business is completely passive today. All my agents are all independent. All my locations are all independent. And so it gives a lot of freedom, but it was always a great experience meeting new people. And that's kind of the cool thing about having a podcast. My podcast is called Wealth on the Beach Podcast, and on iTunes and Spotify. And I love that I get to meet new people all the time. I interview people every single week for the last 6 years, man.
Yeah.
And I love it. And there's nothing I would rather be doing on Wednesday morning. Usually I tape on Wednesday mornings, but there's nothing I'd rather be doing on Wednesday morning than interviewing somebody that I've never met in my life. I get to learn about their story, find out about how they created what they were able to create. And so got a pretty fun life.
And you otherwise probably wouldn't have met these people if you didn't have a podcast.
Never. Yeah. So I feel lucky, and honestly, I feel so grateful right now, man. I feel grateful to be alive. I mean, I'm the most healthy healthiest I've ever been in my life. I mean, I'm 49 years old, and I feel amazing. I took 30 vials of blood test a couple of months ago, and my biological age though is only 43. So my insides are 43. My number on my birth certificate, that's 49. But I take care of my health, man. I mean, I think it's so important. I mean, it's something I didn't really understand maybe earlier on in life, but the last 10 years, 15 years, man, I mean, it's just been really consistent. I had a really good mentor. He told me one time, he says, it's the boring things that make you rich. So even though we're talking about variety and doing different things, meeting different people, it's the truth is it's the behind the scenes, right? It's the late at night, it's the early in the morning shit,
which no one ever sees.
Nobody ever sees that stuff, right? That, you know, it was like for example, in my business, what transformed my business was me understanding duplication. So when I started recruiting people and then training them and then developing them and then opening up locations, I really spent a lot of my life sitting down at the computer and typing scripts and recording my presentations, either on video or audio, and then sharing that content with my organization. So like today, after 28 years of business, nobody needs me anymore, really, because
so you have a self-running machine now.
Yeah, because they can just go watch a video of me. Right. I actually have a coaching program every Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's called Wealth on the Beach Club. And I invite people to come on and I train, right? I mean, people sign up to come on and I train them. And the one thing that we do is we record every single week. So and then we put it on a private Facebook group. So that way, if you come to me, if you're one of my new recruits and you come to me, you're like, I need to know how to recruit more people. I say, just go onto the private Facebook group, search, I want to know how to recruit or recruiting or whatever, and 47 videos are going to come up on recruiting. So you could literally just, you know, instead of watching Netflix, you can go in there and you could gel out on watching recruiting videos, you know, me teaching you exactly what to say it, how to overcome objections, all this stuff. So duplication, replication changed my life.
Yeah, actually, I really like what you said about the whole Netflix thing. And that's something, because I do coaching myself. I recently just started my school community where I'm going to be having a variety of the material I already teach privately to my private clients, but it's all being worked to be in this condensed package where it could be accessible to everybody online.
Awesome.
But I've been in the coaching space for a while. It's, you know, kind of like a, call it a side hustle, really, because some of my clients from the entertainment space, I found a way to be able to coach them too. And that's usually the number one place I'll start with anybody who's looking to just better their lives.
Right.
Either they're already rich and successful and they're missing other aspects, like maybe they're not as in good of shape as they're in, they're not as healthy as they should be, they're not able to attract the type of women they want. So that's where I come in and help them out. And I always say, instead of watching Netflix or TV movies in your free time, learn something instead. Even really successful people, a lot of them don't quite realize that that's important. Same thing with like the average guys. I think that's even more common with the average people. A lot of them waste so much time playing video games, watching TV, and instead of doing that, you can watch a YouTube video, learn a new skill, or even just listening to informational podcasts, like listen to a political podcast so you can understand more of how the world works and what goes on inside the country. So many more options than just melting your brain away watching TV.
It's interesting because when you were saying that, I was thinking in my mind, I had listened, and you guys, before podcasts and all that, we had talk radio. Okay, so talk radio was basically, you know, usually it was like AM 640 or 570 or something like that. And I'd listen to Dennis Prager, or I'd listen to Larry Elder, or I remember these guys, Tom and Ken or something like that, a long time, John and Ken, a long time ago. But I loved listening to those, you know, talk shows because number one, I would learn stuff. But number two, I would understand how to speak more properly, right? I mean, not that my grammar sucks. I'm not, an English teacher or anything like that. And I'm sure people are like, you said that wrong, or you said, that's not my point. My point is I was able to better influence people to my way of thinking. I was better. I was better at selling. I was better at being on stage. I mean, I've spoken in front of crowds, 50,000 people. I mean, I've spoke, for the last 28 years in front of pretty large crowds. And so I was able to do that, I think, because I had almost like an early training of my life, just listening to people speak. And even to this day, people comment all the time. They're like, you speak so clearly. And I always try to be as clear as I possibly can, because I know that people are listening to me because they want to hear me. And my job is to try to speak as clearly as possible so they can understand me.
Yeah, and that's a really valuable skill set. I think a lot of people undermine the importance of proper communication. Right. So in my courses that are going to be launched soon on school, I actually have entire modules dedicated. So like for my dating course, for example, there's an entire module dedicated to learning body language, how to communicate efficiently and effectively, and how to be able to communicate with different types of people. So obviously it's a dating course, so the body language and communication skills taught are more oriented towards dating. But with my networking course, same thing. I have an entire module that has that information on there, but it's more catered into that type of environment, business, more professional style settings. And when people can master the art of being able to, it's not just art too, it's science and art. Being able to master communicating can take you so utterly far. And that's something that I had to learn early on in my Marine Corps career. Like once I progressed through the ranks, eventually I was a sergeant, eventually I was a team leader on the recon teams, and I had to give briefings in front of generals.
Right.
Holy shit, my first ever briefing in front of a general, I stumbled all over the fucking place. Right. And it was utterly embarrassing. And ever since that moment, I vowed to myself, I'll never embarrass myself like that again. And so I started just on my free time, like developing my communication skills. And man, it goes a long way in business too.
I think that, honestly, like I look back and I think probably one of the best things that I did as a public speaker, and why I got so many people to listen to me, and just at least through these years, is because I was always very transparent. I was always very authentic and transparent. Like, really, there's nothing I won't talk about. And I also believe that, especially in business, when people know that you're authentically speaking, and also when you're able to tell people when you made a mistake. When you're able to let people know, like, I'm sorry, like, I'm a big I'm sorry guy. If I make a mistake, I'll say I'm sorry. I am not afraid to say I screwed up, I messed up. And I think people that, are honest people, I think they respect that. They respect it. All right, we're all human. We make mistakes. We screw things up. But when you apologize for something, when you say I'm sorry, instantly, all the turmoil, all the BS, all the defensiveness, it goes away. Because when you say I'm sorry, you're like, hey, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and they go, oh, don't worry about it, don't worry, But if you try to go in there and you try to make up an excuse, or you try to lie about something, or you try to, first thing I'm thinking about is that Walls guy, in the last debate, right? They asked him. He was supposed to be in China or something, and he really wasn't.
Yeah, he said that he was on the ground during the
Tiananmen Square.
Yeah,
or something
Tiananmen
like
Square massacre, and his cat.
But he just totally lied. Yeah, exactly. He's a liar.
And then they interviewed him on it, like, so Mr. Walls, like, do you want to address like why you lied? He said, oh, well, I'm just a knucklehead.
But he just, if he would have just said, but he went around it so many different times, and just instead of saying, look, I was young, I made a mistake, I misspoke, that's all I can tell you. And then I would have just shut up. But he kept talking and talking and talking, which made him sound more and more like a liar. And we know he's a liar. I mean, the guy is totally, a psychopath, liar. I mean, he's lied about a lot of different things that they've caught him already. Same thing with Kamala. I mean, she's a total absolute liar.
Yeah, they never take ownership, and taking ownership is extremely hard to do. Very few people can actually do it, but I notice respect goes a lot way. Oh, totally fumbled my words there. Respect goes a long way.
Right.
If you take ownership. And even like in my personal life, dating. So I made the mistakes before when I was married. I had kids with my wife and stuff, but I was a liar and I was a cheater. And I lie about cheating. And I learned a lot from that because, so much shit went down.
Right.
And I realized, if I were to make those types of mistakes again in the future, I'm just going to own up to it.
Right.
And that's how it's been ever since. Like, this is just my personal life, too, and it's gone such a long way. Like, I've dated women who I told them up front, I don't know if I'll be exclusive to you. I'll probably cheat. And when they do confront me on something, I'll be like, yeah, I did that. And it's like, no argument. Like, they might be sad for a minute, but because I admitted to it, they're like, well, I'm really pissed that you did it, but respect that you owned up to it.
Right.
And then same thing in business too. Like, I've fumbled some contracts in my time, and all I had to do is say to the client, that is my bad. Like, it won't happen again. And then I corrected the action and then maintained those relationships.
It's crazy because I just don't understand why people just don't say sorry. It causes so much less heartache and problems. I mean, if I'm going to be late to an appointment, I'll text them before, though. Like, I'll text them when you're going to be late, right? You know a half an hour before the appointment that you're going to be late. Mm-hmm. And worst case scenario, 10 minutes that you're going to, in 10 minutes, I know I'm going to be late. Why not just text the person and just say, hey, look, I'm really, really sorry, but I'm going to be late. Mm-hmm. And I just want you to know I'm going to be there. It's funny. I was meeting some at an appointment today, and I texted the person and I said, my ETA is 12:02. And just because I wanted them to know I was going to be there 2 minutes late.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's just, to me, it just makes a lot of sense just to tell people, like, communicate with people. I mean, but to lie about it or to show up 15, 20 minutes and leave the person there hanging, just waiting for you, to me is so disrespectful and so not kind. And I believe that when you're not a kind person, eventually you lose credibility. Like, I always thought about credibility, and this is why, well, there's a lot of reasons why my father, I love my biological dad. I mean, I love him very dearly, but as a small child, he didn't keep his word at all. Mm-hmm. And so the reason why I am over and above keep my word. I mean, I was here 30 minutes before our appointment was even.
Yeah, you're showing up on military time.
Exactly. I'm way early. But I'm like that because I'm always trying to build credibility. Not that I want anything from you. I just want to be a good human being.
Reputation goes along.
And a reputation, exactly. But I just want to be a good human being. I want to be a person that people know. Like, when they ask something of Daniel, you're going to get what you're asking for. Daniel's going to come through for you. And that's huge in business, man. But so I would just tell everybody, like, look, if you're going to be late, say you're going to be late. Nobody's going to care. If I would have said I was going to be 15 minutes late, you wouldn't have been pissed at me.
Yeah, I've been like, oh, no problem.
No
like,
problem. No big deal. Just get back to whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But if I would have just left you hanging for 15 minutes, that's not cool, because then you don't even know what's going on, So anyways, I just think that's a huge, huge thing to grasp if you're going to be successful. If you guys are going to be successful at anything, you got to get that.
No, that is huge. And that's honestly really good advice. And that's something I like to, teach people as well. And a trend that I've noticed, particularly when it comes to women, unfortunately, and I always get called misogynistic for pointing out realities, but hey, it is what it is. I work with a lot of women, a lot of models, and it's very rare for me to encounter a new model that actually shows up on time or even shows up, period. So in my industry, I always have to have a backup roster for whatever events there are. Because sometimes you have girls that just completely ghost last minute, even for like an utterly awesome paid gig. And it's ridiculous. And even like outside of the modeling world, recent example, there's this online political influencer. Her name's Isabel DeLuca. She's a pretty blonde Republican type girl, really big on all social media platforms. Okay. And we scheduled a in-person podcast with her, I think 3 different times. Or maybe it's 4. It's 3 or 4 different times. And like the first 2 times, it was like the day of, like, oh, hey, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it. Can we reschedule for this day? And that happens a lot, like hosting guests and stuff. But
it doesn't make sense to me. When somebody, people don't realize, like for example, I used to go to appointments before cell phones. By the way, this is how long I've been in business. I mean, we didn't have cell phones when I first started in business, and I would literally drive an hour to an appointment. Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't be there. We used to call them dark houses.
Oh, that'd be terrible.
And we would go, yeah. So you go all the way there, and they're not there. But imagine, like even you still got to set up the podcast. There's things you got to do. There's other guests that you could have had on today, while you're sitting here, so if I would have called you the day of, I mean, it totally screws up your day, and I just think it's unfair. And I think people need, good people. Like you can't call yourself a good person if you're leaving people hanging all the time, or you're not keeping your word. So to me, if she, whatever her name is, man, you're not a good person. So
no, for real. And like she's supposed to be like a professional, right? Yeah, she's in the political commentary space. Yeah. You got to be professional.
Absolutely.
And so first time I'm like, okay, that's annoying, because I canceled meetings with like other clients and stuff to come be in the studio. And then the next day, like same thing, like day of, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry again. Can we reschedule? And my team had already rescheduled it for me. I was going to say no, but they already did. So I'm like, okay, screw it. We'll go through. Yeah. And so on the third time, I was like basically planning for her not to show up.
Yeah. See, that sucks. That sucks because she has no credibility in your eyes. I mean, that's no credibility.
So get this, okay? So I'm planning my day as usual. And like I was going to come to the office anyway, so I planned it that way on purpose. I'm going to come here, but I wasn't like rushing or anything. Right. So I ended up being like exactly 8 minutes late after she showed up. So she actually shows up on time this time.
Okay.
Then she has the audacity to complain about me being 8 minutes behind. And then get this, for whatever reason in her head, because I was 8 minutes late, she no longer had time to film even a 30-minute episode because we scheduled her for an hour slot.
Wow.
And we sit down, we start filming for like 10 minutes, and she goes on her phone like, oh my God, yeah, I'm going to be late. Like, maybe if you showed up on time, we would have had more time.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, whatever. And so then I sat down in the camera like after she left, and then I went on a whole rant about how flaky women are. So it ended up being a more popular episode.
Well, it's men and women, all right? Men and women are flaky. There's a lot of flaky
people in general are flaky.
People in general. I mean, I think it's like almost like a disease. I mean, so many people are flaky, and I hope people watch this, and I hope people recognize that I'm not just trying to be mean. I'm stating a fact. People are flaky, and you need to cut that shit out, because if you're flaky, you are damaging your life, because you're not going to be successful or as successful as you want to be if you're a freaking flake. I'm sorry. It's just not possible, because eventually, and I was going to say before, so I always thought about credibility as like change in your pocket. So imagine your pockets full of money, full of change. Well, every time you don't keep your word, you got to give away money. You got to you got to take the money out of your pocket. You got to give it to the person that you flaked on, right? Well, eventually, one day you reach in there to grab some money, and you reach out, and it's like it's gone, right? You have no credibility anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody trusts you. Nobody likes you. Nobody wants to be around you.
Yeah, no one's going to do business.
Nobody's going to do business with you because you're a flake. And I think also us as human beings, right? When you flake that many times, People don't trust you, but guess who doesn't also trust you? Yourself doesn't trust you. And when you lose your own self-trust, when you lose your own self-respect, like when you don't respect yourself anymore, you're done. You're done. You can't get out of bed because you don't respect yourself. You can't get out of bed. You want to sleep in late. You don't feel good about yourself. You're depressed. You don't feel right because you're a flaky person. And I think that's, to me, that's something that if anybody wants to be successful at anything, they got to get that down. They got to figure that part out about their life because it is hurting them big time.
Right. And, it's sadly not just a thing with, people who are still trying to make it or at the bottom. Like, I've noticed this with people who've already made it too. So many of them are flaky. Like, I had on a really big guest. I'm not going to name drop because I'm still grateful that he came on because he's a pretty big figure. But he still showed up like a half hour late.
Wow.
Maybe it's a little more than a half hour. And then he just had the attitude of that he was just so much like better than the podcast that he was coming to. So that was really annoying. And then after all of that, at the end, he's like, "Hey, James, you should come to my mastermind."
Yeah.
Oh,
for $10,000, Yeah.
Yeah. So he drops that later.
Right.
So I'm like, "Oh yeah, that'd be cool." And then he like gets my number and stuff. Right. So I'll send you the details. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's only $5,000."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, like you acted like you're doing me a favor. Like, I really don't have a need to buy your real estate mastermind. Like, I'm not in the real estate space."
I wouldn't have bought it from him anyways because he's a flaky guy. He's a flaky guy and he doesn't do what he says he's going to do. I mean, to me, one of the most important things that anybody, if they're going to get it right, is just be your word, man. Right? If you say you're going to do something, do it. I'm telling you, this is another pandemic, I think, in people's mind. People struggle so bad with, they say, "Oh, hey, honey, can you take care of this for me? Would you mind doing that for me?" Or, hey, buddy, can you do this for me? Would you mind? Like, doesn't mean you have to do it for me. You can always say no. You don't have to say yes to everything that everybody asks you. I would rather, if I don't know for sure that I can do something for somebody, I'll just say, "Look, I'm not sure. I'm not going to promise anything. Let me check my schedule. Let me figure out kind of what's going on, and then I'll let you know." And so anyway, that's a pretty bad trait for people as well, is just not keeping their word.
Yeah, and especially if like you're up and coming too, I think just those simple things like being reliable, that's what's going to get you to the next step.
But what's crazy is that the guy at the top, he should be the perfect example.
They should be, yeah.
The guy at the top should be doing it. The guy at the top. Look, when you treat people like I treat you, and I treat the gardener the same. I don't treat you any different than I treat the gardener. When I text the gardener, you know what I tell the gardener? I go, "Hey, man, I just was wondering, I'd sent you this video. I was wondering if you could take care of this little area right here because I need some help. And, would you mind?" And he says, yeah, no problem. Take it. And I text him, I go, "Man, you're awesome, man. I appreciate you, man. You rock." And I'll tell him stuff like that. So I don't treat people that serve me or treat the baggage guy or the whatever, I don't treat them differently because I make money. I mean, come on, it's money. It's digits on a computer screen. I just have a few more digits than other people. But who am I? You can't walk around like you're the shit, And I don't care how much money you have. You look at an Elon Musk or something like that. Dude's a cool guy, man. He'll have a conversation with you. He'll tell you like it is. He'll laugh. He'll joke around. You know what I mean? I can't imagine that guy being a jerk. Look at Vivek Ramaswamy, man. That guy's a billionaire.
Yeah.
He's sitting there having conversations with young kids and respecting them, talking to them with deep respect. Dude's a billionaire, man. He doesn't have to talk to anybody. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to
he
care
could
about
just sit up there on his pedestal if he really wanted to.
If he really wanted to, So you find out a lot about people based on the way that they treat people that can't do anything for them. See, I think the culture today, a lot of people, they're like, "Well, I don't care about those people. I just want to meet that guy because he's at the top, and I'll treat him good because he's at the top, and because I'm trying to move up or whatever." because I want something from that guy. That to me shows the true character of the person. You should treat everybody good, man. You should, like, I don't care. I mean, I've been into houses where there were freaking dirt balls on the floor. You know what I mean? It's like, now, I didn't like that, but I didn't say nothing. I still treated them with respect. I said maybe they were just had hard times, or maybe just stuff was happening or whatever. But you got to treat people good, man. You got to treat people with love and kindness and trying to do the best you can. I'm not perfect, but I try.
Yeah, nobody's perfect, but putting that effort in just to like simply show some common respect, that goes a long way. And I won't do business with somebody, like, for example, if I like take out some people for a networking dinner, and even if like they're on another level than me when it comes to success, and it's definitely beneficial for me to like do business with them. If I see them treating the wait staff poorly,
that's it.
Then I'm like, okay, this is not a good relationship, because if they're going to treat the waiter poorly, the person who is serving them food and they're counting on that waiter not to spit in their food, then how are they going to treat me moving forward with business?
100%.
And same thing with dating too. If I ever bring a girl out on a date and she's rude to the waiter staff, then holy crap, never again.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, and I think also, like, please and thank you. You know, if I go out, because when I take people out, I usually pay. I mean, that's just kind of a normal thing. They're in my business. They don't make as much money or whatever, and so I'm usually the one to pay. If they don't say thank you, I ain't taking you out again. I'm not taking you to dinner. If you don't say thank you, if you don't have the common courtesy just to say, hey, thank you so much, I really appreciate it. And again, I'm the same way. If I go out to dinner with somebody and they take care of the bill or whatever, I'm very appreciative, and in these days, it's a little bit easier. I mean, you could send them a text message and just say, look, I just want to let you know I really appreciated you, taking care of dinner tonight. That was very kind of you. And I hope you have a great day, man. Something like that. I mean, it's so simple things, man. It goes so far in life.
Yeah, these are all common mistakes that a lot of people make, and that's why they don't progress as fast as they want to. Because at the end of the day, people is what matters most. If you can be a good people person, then you're going to climb the ladder rapidly in business.
100%.
But when you first started out, I'm curious, like, what was your schedule like? Was it a lot of grinding at first, like sleepless nights?
Yeah, I mean, this was my schedule, really. I mean, I would get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Because we're in the insurance business, I would have to check on, it's what's called pending business. So I had to check on my business. And people that are watching right now that are a part of my industry, they're going to laugh right now, because we used to have to dial in the policy number in the phone just to get the verification whether the policy was issued or not issued, or it had a requirement or something like, they need their blood still, or they need this or whatever. So you wouldn't really know what's going on. Now you just go on online and you check the file, and then boom, 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 all the information comes up right in front of you. We see everything. So 6 o'clock in the morning, I would be up just checking on all of my policies to make sure that they were getting issued.
Yeah.
Because if they don't get issued, then I lose money. And so about 9 o'clock, I had breakfast and shower and get ready. And about 9 o'clock, I usually get out the door, and I would go and I would prospect. And I would prospect looking for recruits. Now, in today's world, it's easy because you could prospect online, you could DM people, you can connect with people in all kinds of ways. You could run ads, you can get leads, there's all kinds of things you can do. But back when I first started, I used to go to the mall, I used to go to the supermarket, I used to go to networking events, I used to go to, like, they used to have these big motivational conventions and stuff like that. And I would go, there would be some at some hotel or something, and I would go there and I would try to rub elbows with different people or talk to somebody or bump into somebody. I met a guy in a payphone line. That's how long I've been doing this. I met a guy, ended up becoming a really great recruit. And but that's the kind of stuff I did. And then from 1 to 4 o'clock, I generally follow up with all my leads. And then 6 and 8 o'clock, I would want to be on a real legitimate appointment. So 6 and 8 o'clock. Now I didn't have that. I didn't have an appointment every night. So of course that wasn't my day every single day. But every day, that's what I wanted my life to look like. Where at nighttime, I would be, so I was prospecting during the day, and then I was selling at night. I wanted to close at night. I wanted to get a check at night. And that's another thing. I think a lot of people they don't spend enough time focused on results. Results matter. So every day I was thinking about, how do I get a check? How do I get somebody to write me a check so I can process it, so I can make a commission? That was my day, every single day. That's whatever I got to do to try to figure out how I can get checks every day. That was my focus, because if I don't get checks, I'm going out of business, man.
Yeah.
I'm done. I won't last. I mean, anybody that's ever come into my industry and now they're not in my industry, it's simply because they didn't know how to get checks. So what I teach people in my Wealth on the Beach Club is I teach people how to close. I teach them how to get results. I teach them how to get somebody from this point to writing a check.
So you're teaching sales, basically.
Oh, I'm teaching sales. I'm teaching money. I'm teaching, financial planning. I'm teaching, you name it, man. I'm teaching relationships. I'm teaching how to overcome objections. I'm teaching leadership skills, communication skills. I mean, really anything under the sun when it comes to, I even teach investing. We had a course on options trading.
Oh, cool.
I actually had my options trading coach on there one day. I've done,
So this is basically like an entire other business for you then.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. It's not something that I really put a lot of effort into building. It's kind of just been, as time went on, people just joined me. And but I do think that next year is really, I want to reinvent it. I want to reimagine the Wealth on the Beach Club, because I've had it for 6 years now. So I want to reimagine it, and I want to put a little bit of money into it, and I want to really get it moving in the right direction. We just redid my website, and of course, we have the link of how people can sign up on wealthonthebeach.com. And so we've kind of been putting a little bit more effort into it, but that's definitely would be my next focus as far as
really cool.
Trying to get that to grow again. Because when I first started Wealth on the Beach Club, it got pretty big. And then just as the time went on, because I'm traveling so much and doing other things, and it just kind of died down a little bit.
Yeah, I think the online education market is booming right now. That's why I started transitioning into moving my coaching programs online.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you doing it all through like your private website, or are you going through like a school platform?
Nope, I'm doing it just totally on a private Zoom link, and then a private Facebook group is where we host all the videos.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, no, I'm excited building out my online coaching business too. So like I'm using the school platform because it's a great like social media network.
For
a lot of people go on there. But my business is called the Success Syndicate.
Okay.
So we're going to be teaching like networking, dating relationship courses, and then we're also going to be collaborating with a lot of other successful gurus to teach their financial niche. So we got guys who are professionals in setting up online coaching businesses, guys who are successful in medical device sales, like all kinds of random crazy industries. That's all going to be added into my online school community. That's awesome. That's an exciting project. And it sounds like you're kind of on the same track there. Like all of your current coaching clients you have through your community, it's like been natural, just flow from who you interact with. And now you're going to try to expand it on a much more like broad scale.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so I see it as just kind of an extension of what I already do. I mean, I'm already teaching my agents every single week anyways. I literally have, hundreds and hundreds of agents that want to be taught. So I'm just trying to do everything that I can to expand that, to allow anybody and everybody to learn from me if they want to, because I'm already teaching it already. So whether they join me or they don't join me, I'm already teaching. I'm already
Yeah.
training. I'm already coaching anyways. So I just wanted to kind of open up because I'll tell you the truth is that when I started Wealth on the Beach Club, the only reason why I started it is because everybody online kept asking me questions all the time, right? I mean, I have people that, they hit me up on DM and they're like, how do I do this? And how do I do that? And how do I grow my teams? And how do I become a better leader? How do I sell better? How do I, expand my offices, and how do I become a better this and make all this money? And I can't sit there and coach every single person that DMs me on Instagram. It's just not possible. I mean, I barely even look at my Facebook. So I got hundreds and hundreds of messages, just people wanting to know how to do better. And I love that. And it's not that I'm trying to be, I'm not going to spend time with all these people. But look, I only have so many hours in the day. So I figured, let me start Wealth on the Beach Club. They could put a little bit of money where their mouth is. It's not a lot of money. It's only $100 a month. So it's not a lot of money.
That's like an incredibly cheap program.
That's 4 sessions a month for $100. It's not a lot of money.
That's basically free.
It's basically free. So yeah, because and I know, come on, these courses, some of them $5,000, $10,000, whatever, right?
For real. I think 10,000 is like a common price that you see for some of that material.
And the difference with me versus a lot of these gurus is that I've actually done it. Like, I didn't make my money just selling courses. I didn't make my money just doing, writing books. I made my money actually selling and training and coaching and building and growing. And, that's how I made all my money. And so the way I did it is what I'm teaching, not, I'm just,
there's a lot of gurus on there who they'll take a certain amount of money for initial investment for like their online image. Like, they'll go rent a Lamborghini.
Well,
take a bunch of photos with it. Like, they'll rent the Lamborghini for like one day.
All right.
Do like 10 different outfits, different hairstyles, like different, get their girlfriend or whatever.
For sure.
Their girlfriend's friends come on, and they do this whole like fancy show and stuff. And it's like, they just rented a Lambo for a day, so like $1,000 basically, and then what their cell phone they already have, so invest like barely any money, and then they'll whatever they have in their savings, like pull it out, like, look at all this cash and flex. Like, if you want to be like me, like, come join my coaching program. And it's all cap. And there's a lot of guys that ironically became multimillionaires from doing it. But they became multimillionaires from teaching, not what they are actually like teaching in a
what
course.
They actually did. Exactly. So that was always, to me, and again, it's not as, I'm not as flashy. Everything I do, in the beginning years that I was starting to post on social media, of course I would show my stuff. I would show my cars. I would show my house. I would show, my vacations. I would show, and really it was frowned upon in the beginning because of the just there was so many regulations, and like they didn't want people to over exaggerate or making claims and, oh, you're going to have this, and it was kind of a bummer because like right when I got started, so many, the industry and the companies and things like that, they really wanted to push me down. They wanted to hold me back from doing that stuff. And today it's like completely okay. Everybody shows their cars, everybody shows their planes, everybody shows their whatever. But the truth is I never was super, super flashy. I just showed people what I had. Never rented a car, never rented a house, never rented a, whatever. I still don't fly private. I think the closest is the JSX or whatever. That's the closest I do to, it's like semi-private,
Oh, that's like one of those club.
It's like one of the club things, but I don't even do that, because I'm a financial guy. Like, I think of the bottom line. I don't like overspending for shit. I don't like just trying to look rich, right? I remember telling people my whole career, because early on, I mean, the reason why I saved my first $1 million by the time I was 28 was because, and I had a business that I was making passive income of $500,000 at that time. And so, I mean, for me, it was always like, I need to invest. I need to take my money. Like, I didn't buy stupid shit, man. I was making $300,000 a year. I was living, I was living in a $370,000 house. I had a car that was $10,000 Maxima that I was driving around. I was making $300,000. That's $25,000 a month. That's a lot of money now. I mean, imagine that was 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, you could have easily played off as the multi.
Oh, I could have been balling, man. I mean, I remember we did look at a few $1 million houses back then, and I'm like, I'm just not doing it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to save my money. I'm going to invest my money. That house that was $370,000. That house, it was paid off in 5 years. It was completely paid off, and I sold it for almost $1 million. So it's like, you know what I mean? But it's those type of things and then I flipped that over into another house that I doubled that money as well. I bought properties. I bought a commercial property that's completely paid off. I have virtually no debt. I have a little bit of debt, maybe a couple $100,000 of debt.
But that isn't a bad thing either.
Well, it's not. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you want to live my lifestyle, though, I think that you got to be careful with that, because the one thing that I don't like when I owe people money and I have to continue to work hard to pay people that money. You know what I mean? Like for example, if I had 50 Airbnbs, I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do. There's a lot of people with Airbnbs. God bless you. You're making a lot of money and you're rich and all that kind of stuff. The problem is you still got to manage that shit. Let's be honest, right? I mean, but you look at my life today, I get up every single day. I do whatever I want to do. I do have properties. I do have investments that I do have to track. Sometimes I think about it, though. I'm thinking, holy shit, I just spent 3 days in a row taking care of some tenants. I have commercial property that they call me, I have to, take care of the, or at least call somebody to take care of the air conditioning or whatever. I'm always involved somehow. Even when you have management companies, by the way, you're still involved with different things. Plus, think about it. You got to pay property taxes to all those properties. You got to make sure that when you're not renting them out, that the mortgages still get paid, right? There's so much management to things. It looks fancy and shiny and beautiful on TV, but when you really get down, man, there's a lot of stress in business, man. So you gotta ask yourself what you want, right? If you want kind of a stressful life, boom, 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 you're running this and taking care of that and flying here and doing that and taking care of that and talking to this person and getting this deal and all, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying it's bad. I actually,
you just chose to be smarter with the money.
Well, I don't know if it's smarter. It's just that I just chose a life of freedom. I chose freedom over everything else. I chose freedom over, looking fancy. I chose freedom over buying the $7 million house versus buying the $1.7 million house. You know what I mean? Like, because I could have bought so much more. I could have spent so much more money, but I didn't, because I wanted the freedom to not have a lot of bills, man, to be able to go, all right, man, you're making X amount of dollars every single month and you have big X left over every month. So you can save it. You could also buy whatever you want. You don't have to look at the prices on things. You can buy when you feel like buying something stupid, you can just buy it. It's not a big deal.
Right.
So anyway, that's I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
totally relevant. Like for me, if I really wanted to, like I have enough income right now to make it look like I'm making high thousands of dollars a month.
Right.
Like people don't really understand. Like if you make, I'd say like at least $20,000 a month. If you're making $20,000 a month, it's really easy to make yourself look like you're a millionaire.
For sure.
Because you can get one of these new sky rises around like Newport Beach or Irvine, really nice buildings. Some of those rents are like, anywhere from $3,500 to like $5,000 a month for a super nice luxury place.
Yeah.
So that's like a quarter of that $20,000 a month income. You could get a crazy sports car, depending on credit and everything.
Couple grand or whatever, right?
A couple grand a month. So drive a Lamborghini, got a luxury place. You look like a millionaire.
Oh, totally.
But, you don't have much extra money left over. And then if you do hit a bump in business, like I have before, I've gone from like climbing that mountain, I'm like, oh yeah, it's raining bills.
Right.
And then just like the next week, like, whoo, man, my ass is on fire.
Absolutely. And that's another thing that I think that we should talk about is like one of the smart thing, I wasn't smart with everything. I've made bad investments. I've screwed up time. I mean, I was just talking to somebody the other day. I'm like, made stupid investments. People said, hey, man, this is a great investment. You should do it. I mean, years ago, I made stupid. That's why you got to have somebody, like, that's why coaches are kind of important, especially if it's somebody you respect, because these are people that you want to ask. You want to say, hey, what do you think? And unfortunately, I took some bad advice and I made a bad investment. I mean, it didn't kill me because I'm way diversified, but what I'm saying is I made some stupid decisions, but the best decision I ever made was being a part of a business that was passive income. Yeah. So my business was a business that it replicates itself, right? It's built on a model like a broker-agent relationship, but everybody gets to recruit. My organization recruits 200 to 300 people a month. So without me doing anything, this thing is like a machine. It just continues to grow. It just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of these people, by the way, they're excited about growing it and building it for their families, right? They don't care about me. They care about their family. I'm not like their boss, even though I'm above them and I still earn income from their production. They don't care about me. They want to build something great for their lives. I mean, imagine the guy above me. I mean, he makes millions and millions of dollars, and the guy hasn't worked since 1996. Yeah. And you go, that's awesome, man.
Right. See, everybody wants to get to the passive income part, but most people don't realize you have to get the active income, like be there every single day at first, because everyone's like, oh, how do I make passive income? Because they're lazy.
But you got to recruit, because I think like this whole real estate phase and all this kind of stuff, which real estate, nothing wrong with real estate. I love real estate. Real estate's a great business. It's a great way to make money. I've made a lot of money in real estate. But I think that the challenge is that it's not replicatable. So, like, for example, if you make a sale and you make all that money, you then the next day have to make another sale to make all that money. And then the next day you got to make another sale to make all the money. Now, obviously, sales aren't happening every day because some of those sales take months and months and months. Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is that what I love about my business is that I can recruit you, right? I can recruit one person, and then I could take that one person and get them licensed with the state. And then once they get licensed, they can then go out and sell the products because they're licensed by the state.
So they're doing the work for it.
So yeah, they can go out and sell. Now, I did it all before, right? I did it years and years and years and years. I did it. I recruited. I trained. I developed. At one time I was a new recruit. The guy trained me, and I had to go get licensed, and I did all. So I did everything that I'm asking the new recruit to do. I've done it already before. That's leadership, by the way. I've done it. I'll never ask anybody to do something I haven't done or I'm not willing to go do. And you know that's military, man. You lead from the front. Your people are watching you. They will do what you do. And so, but bottom line is that I knew that having a business that we recruit people and you can have as many people as you want. I have 1,500 agents today. I can have 15,000 agents if I want to, right? It never has to stop. So as the years go on, so I figure in the next, 10 years, I'll go from having 1,500 agents to probably 10,000 agents in that span of time. So imagine Doesn't matter. Whatever you're making right now, just 10 times the amount. It's a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing about that type of
great
business.
industry. Yeah, it's a great business.
So it's like endless expansion opportunity, basically.
Yeah.
Like for my industry, like it's all relationship based on me.
Right.
So I don't have the luxury of being able to recruit someone else, teach them how I do things, because it's just not how the private entertainment industry works. There's a lot of like NDAs involved, a lot of trust, like your reputation counts.
Right.
And that's just not something I can pass off.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm starting to transition now into the online space, because like your business, the online space,
Passive.
Unlimited room for growth and adding new people into the mix. And then eventually, like, I won't have to do any managing where you are now.
That's it. Well, at least you're on the right path. At least you see it, because a lot of people don't see it because they look at their 9-to-5 job and that's all they see. And to me, that like corporate America is like a nightmare. To me, that's a nightmare.
That sounds scary as fuck.
It is. It is because you get to 50 years old. Like, how can anybody rely solely on a job, man? I mean, imagine. It's like I was talking about this the other night. I'm like, imagine if you were a hairstylist. I mean, that is like the most scariest job ever to have. Because what if you break your arm? What if you're skiing at the lake or you go skiing in the mountains or something like that and you break your arm? You have no income. And you haven't duplicated yourself. You haven't replicated. Now, if you own a shop of people doing hair, okay, that's different, because now you have a lot of people that work with you, right? But imagine when you're 50 years old. Both of my fathers, they were laid off in their 50s. And I just think there's just no way, man. I never want to be in a position where somebody can put their thumb on me. I never want to be in a position where somebody can tell me when I can pee, when I can go to the bathroom, when I can take a vacation, when I can, go see my kids, when I can, no, it's just not going to happen, man. I would be a terrible, terrible employee, man. Absolutely terrible employee.
Yeah, no, I learned that in my last few years in the Marine Corps. Like, I thought because I was in a great position in the Marines. I was the youngest promoted staff sergeant in the entire 1st Marine Division.
Awesome. Thank you for your service, by the way.
I appreciate that, man. I was, a recon Marine, a team leader. When I was promoted, though, I got bumped up in billet. So I was basically managing operations for an entire company as the company gunnery sergeant.
Awesome.
And I thought, I have amazing job security. Nothing really could touch me. Like, even having injuries, they want to keep you in and they want to keep paying you so you can fully recover to get back into things.
Yeah.
So, like, I had my injuries and stuff. Like, I was in and out of surgeries. You can see that nasty scar right there. And I was still getting the paycheck, I was still being able to work. I just couldn't go to the field.
Right.
And even like during COVID, I remember like everybody getting laid off and no one's getting money.
Right.
And I got my paycheck.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking so much job security, but then I realize all it takes is just one person to f up for you. That's what my ex-wife did.
Right.
And so I'm like, wow, okay.
But imagine so many people right now that are working at the grocery store, or they're working at some retail outlet, or they're working at a restaurant. Imagine, like, there's going to be another COVID, man. Something else is going to happen. So when that situation happens and you get laid off, don't you tell me that we didn't warn you, right? We're warning you right now. Get yourself a side business. Get yourself a business that you can replicate, that you can one day get free, because if you don't, you are going to fall victim to all those people that lost their jobs in COVID. I mean, 60% of the restaurants went out of business, man. They never came back.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all of these stores, these shops, these malls, you go into some of these malls today, it's like a ghost town. Like, most of the shops are not even full anymore. I mean, there's so many things that we think about, and it's just a scary thing. I never want to be an employee where, if a company has a bad quarter, they can lay off 7,000 people. Who's to say it's not going to be me?
Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, there's another thing that I always talk about. It's like, imagine when you're 50 years old and you're making $150,000 a year, $200,000 a year for the company. Well, guess what? You're the first one that they want to lay off, because you make 200 grand. They could pay 2 young studs out of college 75 grand and they're happy with 75 grand. They could pay almost 3 people, you know what I mean, for what they were paying just you.
And not to mention having to work all those years just to make 6 figures.
Exactly.
6 figures, like people think $100,000 a year is like the best place to be in life.
Right.
And holy shit, especially like living in California.
Yeah.
No, none whatsoever. Like it took me in the military, I want to say 7 years before I was getting 6 figures from my paycheck. I've always had side hustles. I've always had extra money. But like getting into business myself, like just in a few months, I was clearing 6 figures.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the difference is some people have kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. And I'm not saying everybody's going to be an entrepreneur.
Most people don't. It's honestly needed. People have to flip the burgers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to be at the drive-through window when you drive through, you know? So, but I just think that there are good people out there that are watching right now and they're thinking, I'm scared that I'm going to be laid off in the next pandemic or the next, bad quarter for the company or whatever. Job security, it's not there anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
there really is no
you're
such
a number.
thing as job security.
Yeah, you're a number, man. I mean, they're going to replace you. If you can't do your job or something happens to you, you get sick, you get hurt, somebody files a complaint on you or something like that, you're done, dude. Just like that. It's over.
All right, sorry about that, guys. This is part 2 of the episode, how to change out the camera batteries. So, Daniel.
Yeah, this is a marathon podcast today.
This is a good talk.
This is awesome.
Yeah, obviously,
we're flowing.
you
Good.
run a podcast yourself, so the conversation is just, it's
stop.
going.
Yeah.
It's like other guests that don't do a lot of public speaking or like any podcast content.
Right.
A lot of the times I cut the episodes short, like around like 30, 45 minutes.
Right.
Just because it's so hard to like pull information out of them. But you've been doing this for a while, so it's been really fluid. I want to talk to you, though, about networking, because I think networking is so utterly important for almost every aspect of life, and especially for entrepreneurs who are climbing the ladder trying to become successful.
Right.
I personally think networking is the number one thing you can do to reach that next level of success. And I wanted to ask you about some of your own personal networking tips.
Well, I think just you got to be a people person. I mean, you got to make a decision that everywhere you go, everything you do, you're going to meet new people and make new friends. If you haven't read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, you need to go out and do that like today, because that book will get you to understand human nature and really how to get along with people. Mm-hmm. So I think that especially in my business, because everything I ever did was networking. So I'm at the baseball game. I'm talking to the guy over here. I'm talking to the guy over here. I'm getting their name. I'm, in the supermarket. I'm talking to this guy and I'm asking him about his whatever he's buying. I'm sitting in the bookstore and I'm, reading a self-improvement book, and this guy's reading a self-improvement book. I'm going to ask him a question. So networking, the way that I did it, was a lot different than maybe the way people even do it today. Because today, everything is so much online. People are networking online everywhere you go. Now, networking events, people are starting to attend more often now. They're paying to go to these events and rubbing elbows with people that are doing well. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. But for me, I always thought about it, it was kind of just a way of life.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the online space has changed things so much, because you mentioned online networking, and that's a completely different ballgame.
Right.
But if you can somehow intertwine the classic way to network and like in-person networking with online, that's probably the number one way to do so. And I figured out some techniques for myself getting into business. It started with my in-person connections. Then eventually I met the right people to encourage me to step up my online game. And from online alone, I was able to branch off in so many different directions and meet so many incredible people. Like just on my WhatsApp alone, I'm in all kinds of crazy group chats with people who are famous, ultra successful, people who are on the level that I want to be on. It's like a lot of people look at me and think, oh, James has made it. Like I want to be on James's level one day. But myself, I'm like, no, I haven't made it yet. I want to be on this guy's level. And I'm in so many group chats with those types of people.
Right.
And I'm able to have interactions and conversations with them in the group chat, like bring them off and to talk privately. And I have always liked to offer some type of value up front.
Right.
Because for me, and I think for anyone else who's trying to climb the ladder and network, you have to understand you're probably at a much lower level than the people you're trying to interact with. So you have to bring value up front, and you have to be able to bring free value. Bruce Cardenas, I'm sure you know him. He's an excellent example. He came on the podcast and he talked about how he likes to network. Right now, he's representing Legendary Food Products. So everywhere he goes, whoever he meets, he brings Legendary products. It's a simple gesture. It is no sweat, no money off his back, but it goes a long way. And people then want to do more favors for him just because the first time they ever met the guy, he's like, here's a bunch of Legendary bars. This is my company representing. Let me know what you think. And then that carried with people's memory. And he has a crazy network. That guy knows everybody. Who, I don't think he doesn't know like one famous person in this country.
No, Bruce is a great guy. I mean, and I just think that you know, if you can get somebody to like you and trust you, that's everything. Because people don't even care what you're charging in some cases if they just like you and trust you. I mean, you could literally have a piece of crap product, but if people like you and trust you, they will buy from you. I mean, of course, I've analyzed 1 million life insurance policies. So, you know, I analyze a policy and I'm sitting there and I'm going like, how did this person ever buy this thing? You know, it's $600 a month. They're getting $150,000 of life insurance. I mean, it was like the worst policy. I mean, they're going to lose all their money if they die. They got to pay interest back in this policy. It's like a crappy, you know, IUL policy, whatever, right? Way over expensive, just a horrible thing. And I'm looking at this person and I'm thinking in my mind, I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking like, how did somebody convince you to buy this shit product? You know what I mean? And the way that they did it is because of the relationship. The relationship is everything. So, and then you ask the person like, well, I have something way better. It's way less expensive. It's giving you way more value. There's way more benefits. It's way, you know, we could invest the difference somewhere else, get you hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, just take a compound interest chart. You have hundreds of thousands of dollars more money here than there. No, it's my brother. It's my brother. I can't, you know, I'd rather have hundreds of thousands of dollars of less money than make my brother mad because of the relationship. Because the brother is probably a really good brother. So the reason why Bruce Cardenas has a lot of relationships is because he's a genuinely nice guy. Like he actually genuinely cares about people. And so that's why people like him. That's why people want to be around him. That's why people want to, you know, get to know him. It's not even, it's a little bit of the bars, of course. We all like him a little bit more when he gives us those free Legendary bars. But the truth is, he's just genuinely a really nice guy. And that to me is everything.
And he's not trying to like turn around and sell you a $5,000 mastermind after meeting.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And he does it. And he's also, Bruce is not like this guy that like pretends to be something he's not. And he's not making you feel lesser of a person. Like if you're around other people and you make them feel lesser than you, because you're so awesome and so, prestigious and great and have all this money or whatever. That's when people don't like you, man. And they may act like they like you because you have the status or you have the magazine cover or you have the whatever. But if you treat people bad, we talked about this earlier. I mean, it's going to ruin your networking experience.
Right. And I think that's why Grant Cardone is getting a bad rap right now, because apparently a lot of people, based on their in-person interaction, they're seeing the opposite of what he puts up online. Like online, it seems like, oh, he wants to help the common man and stuff. But it. You know, there's stories of like guys going to a seminar, and when it's their turn to speak, they're like, oh, hey, I've spent all of my money. I took out an extra credit card to be here right now. I'm so happy to be here. And he didn't do anything like for him. He's like, hey, good job, and ended up like taking like 50% of his commission that day.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard many stories like that.
I know Grant Cardone to a level. I mean, I don't know him like real well. He'd probably know my name and whatever. But I did. I actually sat in on a G&E show. This was probably 5 years ago. So it was a long time. It was actually, you know, I mean, he was already obviously doing very well and very successful already, but it was like in the beginning stages of what his life looks like today. And I don't think he had a jet at that time, but he was a really nice guy. You know, he actually was, I mean, same thing with Elena. I mean, she was amazing as well. I mean, they were really, really, so I don't know if anything's changed because I haven't seen him or had a conversation with him since that day. So did it change? I don't know. Grant, call me up, man. Tell me if it changed, all right? So, but really, the truth is that back then, I thought the two of them were a couple of the nicest people that I ever met, you know, just in my personal interaction. So
interesting. Yeah, no, I honestly haven't heard anything good from people who've actually met him. I haven't met him myself, so I can't really judge. I just know, like, hey, he's an ultra successful guy. But apparently, like, the way he does business is not as people friendly like we're talking about.
I never really did business with him. I never bought any of his masterminds or anything. I did go to a 10X, so I did pay to go to a 10X, but I haven't really, you know, done a lot of business with him. But I will say that his, you know, his personality is, he's just hardcore, man. I mean, the bottom line, he's a sales guy. I mean, through and through, he's a sales guy. He will do anything that it takes to sell. Now, with that said, which there's a piece of me that likes that because I want my agents to be aggressive and sell and make money, and right, because you don't make money, you go out of business. So he's got a lot of pressure on his mind. I mean, you think about Grant, I mean, just to kind of defend him a little bit, I mean, this guy has got a lot of weight on his shoulders, man. He's got Cardone Ventures, he's got his plane, he's got his 5,000 doors. I mean, he's got, I mean, that's what I was talking about before. It's like a different way of living, right? That's a fast-paced living, man. There's something about that life that seems fun, seems exciting, seems like, wow, that'd be great to do stages like that and all, you know. But there's also the other side of it, right? You got to look at it and you got to go, man, that's a tough life, because there's a lot of pressure on you to perform. There's a lot of pressure on Grant to perform. There's a lot of pressure on him to make sure that he makes money, because when you invest, you know, $10 million into, you know, renting out a stadium, you know, you got to fill a stadium. You know, it's a lot of pressure. When you got all of these management companies calling you, getting sued, think about how many times that guy gets sued every day. Because now if you're in an apartment that's owned by Cardone Ventures, man, I mean, you know, hey, just sue Cardone somehow. You know what I mean? And again, I'm just saying that there's a piece of me that really respects the fact that, man, he was willing to risk it all. And he's also, and the last thing I'll say about him, what I really like about Grant Cardone is that he is, you know, he's a true patriot, I think. You know, I think from a standpoint, like he had Donald Trump at one of his 10X conventions.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know, he had, so he's a Republican that really is coming out against Kamala Harris. You know, comrade Kamala Harris. You know, but he's one of those people that's not afraid to speak his mind and not afraid to say, you know what. Because he's got a lot to lose. You know, he's like kind of like an Elon Musk in a way.
Oh, Elon Musk has put himself out there right now.
I mean, it's like he's got a big target on his head. Like even right now, I was watching him with Tucker, and he's like, man, if Donald Trump loses this election,
I saw that.
Like, am I going to jail? Am I going to lose my business? Am I going to be able to see my kids? I mean, it's like, these guys, there's a real big piece of me, man, that I just respect somebody that's willing to speak their mind. I mean, I get a lot of, even on my social media, because, you know, I'm a part of corporation, company, that has 150,000 licensed agents in it, and so some of the things that I say, people get mad at me. I mean, I
you can't please everybody.
Holy shit! I mean, I had a guy the other day. I mean, he told me my information was garbage, and then I looked at who he was, and he was a VP in our company. Like, this is a guy that, like, we're on the same team. We're like we're supposed to be buddies, man. We're working together, and he's like, your information is garbage propaganda.
Wow.
Like, totally hammered me in the comment section. Now, in my defense, I did write him back on the comments, and I just tore him to shreds. Okay, the poor guy was, his name was like Dougie Fresh or something like that, and I tore him up so bad he never got back on and said anything else. So he was, poor guy. He got his feelings hurt probably because, I mean, and I just had a guy today. We were going back and forth on TikTok. He was an old friend from high school actually, and it's funny because we went back and forth about politics and everything, and I mean, the guy is really not that smart. I mean, he didn't understand policies, he didn't understand the economy, doesn't understand money. And today I told him, I said, let's just stop sending each other stuff. I've known you 40 years, 30 years or whatever, let's stop sending each other stuff about politics, because I don't even want to have this conversation, because I obviously know that you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to politics, the economy. I said, you've always been a funny guy, though. He was like one of our funny friends growing up, I mean, he was kind of I always call him a big pussy because, I mean, he was a pussy. I mean, he literally, I got jumped when I was 17 years old in a party. And he was one of my buddies that was there, and he did not jump in. So I'll never really...
Coward.
He's a coward. He's a total coward, right? Well, that's why I know he's going to vote for Kamala. I know he's a freaking coward.
Isn't that funny? Like, so I've been doing a ton of street interviews, just going around to people.
I love
Trump
that.
or Kamala.
I love that.
And
I love that.
Every single time a dude is saying Kamala, they got something that's not very masculine about them.
Oh, for sure.
Like every single time.
Well, he's a hairdresser, so I mean that probably puts it in perspective. But again, he's a nice guy, and I told him, I said, let's just do funny things. Send me funny stuff on TikTok if you want to, but I don't want to have this conversation about politics with you, because I feel like I was getting dumber and dumber as I was talking to him. And that's a sad thing. Like, if there are people out there that are going to vote for Kamala Harris, I'm telling you, you hate America. Like, you literally hate America. And I'm not afraid to say it. You hate America because, look, first of all, opening the border wide open is not American. That's just not American. I mean, the only way that we have a real country is if there's borders around the country. That's a country. Like, if you can't protect your border from outside invasion, then you don't have a country. You don't have a government. The only thing the government is supposed to do, their only job is to keep us protected, keep us safe, man. But if we have 30,000, 50,000, 80,000 Chinese refugees coming into America, now they're like just hiding, and they're in the freaking shadows of America right now. I mean, you're a military guy. That can't be a good thing, right?
Yeah, so while I was still in, but like I was active during like the Afghanistan fiasco and stuff. Like, I had friends on the ground over there. I'd sit in some of these briefings and like, I'm trying to remember if any of it was like classified, if I get in trouble saying this stuff.
But anyways,
there was okay. I think I'm safe saying this. I am safe saying this because it's also on the news. But apparently, there are thousands of known terrorists that have now come across the border.
Absolutely.
And there are intelligence reports indicating that a lot of these like known terrorists, call them like thresholds or whatever, actually are located near military bases.
Oh, no, that's 100% true, man. I mean, they're literally buying up land next to these military bases in America. Like, how could that be okay with anybody? Like, and what's sad about it is that people are buying the BS. I mean, Kamala just did a interview on 60 Minutes, and the guy asked her, he said, so, like, do you feel like you made a mistake by telling the rest of the world that you can come to America? Like, they did that. I mean, Biden basically said, come to America.
That interviewer was trying so hard to be polite.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
He was like, but that's not the answer. That's not an answer to my question. Like, he was trying so hard, and
that's not what she did over the last 3. And then he's like, and she says, "Well, we're trying really hard to, clamp down on the border and do a good job." But I'm going, well, wait a minute. And the guy's like, wait a minute, no, wait. But why didn't you do that 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, and of course she couldn't answer, and he was trying to do such a good job. This guy, whatever his name was, he did a great job. I mean, first time it was a real interview, although they did edit it, which was kind of BS. But I just feel like, and look, I had a guy, Paul Hutchinson, come on to my podcast, and I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, we've talked a few times.
Okay.
I've been waiting for him to come back down and get on my podcast.
Yeah. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, he was an executive producer for The Sound of Freedom,
mm-hmm.
and I just think that it's really sad that if you're a Democrat right now, I mean, literally, and nobody really talks about this a whole lot, but if you're a Democrat right now, and you have allowed and been okay with that border being open for the last 3, almost 4 years. Just been wide open, man. Biggest influx of illegals coming into our country in history, okay? And you're okay with that. You voted these people in, and you're ready to vote for them again.
And the majority of them don't value American values.
They don't value American values.
Like the country.
But what about, and this is the problem, what about the kids, man? There's hundreds of thousands of kids that are lost. I think it's like 85,000 kids right now that are unaccounted for. But James O'Keefe, head of Project Veritas, he actually went undercover. Okay, and of course Paul Hutchinson went undercover as well, and these guys saw firsthand that they're taking these children and they're putting them into they're trafficking these kids into the sex trade. So, okay, explain to me how any rational human being is okay with that. So literally, your vote, so I have 2 people to vote for, right? I can vote for Donald Trump, or I can vote for Biden-Harris, right? Or Harris, Walz, right? So I have 2 choices. That's it. I got 2 choices right now. One, Trump is the biggest advocate against human trafficking, wants to shut down the border, wants to put up a big wall, wants to do all these things to protect America, right? So we have 2 choices. One guy wants to do that. The other people have allowed the border to be wide open. Now we have a problem with sex trafficking, little kids getting into the sex trafficking, into the sex trade because of Kamala Harris, because of Joe Biden. So this is like, there's no 2 ways about it. If Trump was in office for the last 4 years, we would have a real border wall. And by the way, we had a real border wall that was going up during the Trump administration. Do you know what happened when Biden got put in? They immediately stopped the building of the wall. So they're basically saying it's okay to traffic small children into the sex trade. I mean, this is the conversation I had with Paul Hutchinson, and this guy went undercover on 70 missions, man.
Yeah, the guy's
he's a stud.
He's a warrior.
He's
basically.
a freaking warrior stud, man. This guy went under 70 missions, and he would go undercover to save children. And he told me, with his own words, he said that Donald Trump is the greatest advocate for saving these children. The Biden administration, the Kamala Harris and Walz administration, I mean, Walz is putting tampons in little boys' bathrooms in Wisconsin. So how is that happening, man? How is that okay? How are we okay as a society? How are we okay with these things? And I know this is politically, obviously all the things I'm saying, people are, oh my God, I can't believe he's saying that. And this, no, this is from people that actually were in. It's like me trying to say that somebody that went to Afghanistan in a war, I know more than them. They went through it. They know what happened. They know firsthand. Military. Firsthand. These are guys, firsthand knowledge that went through this that are saying you should not vote for Kamala Harris because this is allowing the sex trade to continue.
Yeah, basically voting for Kamala Harris is a vote for allowing the growth of the sex trade industry.
That's it.
Trump gets elected in office.
It's going to stop.
Business is closing down.
Done.
But
That's
Kamala
why they want to kill him.
Business is going to continue opening up. And I think she's starting to change her mind on her border policies now because she's now forced into a position where if she's not saying out loud that she needs to do something about the border, all the facts and statistics are against her.
Right.
And myself, like being on the recon teams, we did a joint task force with Border Patrol Special Operations for that specific issue, like human trafficking across the border.
That's it.
Like, I supported operations where, recon teams were spotting guys in the middle of the night, like huge caravans of people coming across, like identifying like, drugs, actual like children coming from across like Asia into Mexico. And, Border Patrol would come in, like pick them up, and a lot of people were saved. But when Biden got into office, a lot of those operations like got huge financial cutbacks, and people are just freely coming across. It was insane.
I just want to know. I want to ask Kamala Harris, or I want to ask these major Democrat people, or I want to even ask just regular Democrats that are like, leave a comment. Like, tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm screwed up. Tell me where I messed up. Tell me where my thinking is not right. Mm-hmm. Why is it okay for us to open up the border? And we know there was a PragerU just did a documentary on, they have the wristbands. I don't know if you know about the wristbands, but they put wristbands on the little kids because you're basically indentured servants now. Mm-hmm. You're a slave to the cartels that own you. And these wristbands, they decide where you go. They decide how much you owe them, how long you got to work for them, because what they're figuring out is like you could sell drugs, but eventually these people die. The sex trade, man, they just keep working you, man. I mean, think about it. I mean, it's a gross, disgusting freaking thing, but they can literally work these children. I mean, some of these children have been in sexual situations thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of times. And it breaks my, I get so pissed, right? It breaks my heart because if you vote Democrat, you're voting to say that we're going to keep that border open. And don't believe what Kamala Harris. She flipped her position right at the end, and even so she flips her position right at the end and says, "Oh, I want a tough borders." No. You already lost 85,000 kids. How many people died? How many people died from people that came over here? Venezuela, they're letting open their prisons to allow people over here. The Biden administration, they literally flew little kids. So our tax dollars, I mean, I know this is a scary thing to think about, and I know some of you might not like to hear this, but our tax dollars have funded the sex trafficking of little children. So think about this for a second. Okay, so we give our tax dollars to the government. The government flies these little kids because of the little wristband that says, "Oh, my uncle lives at this address in Chicago somewhere." And by the way, James O'Keefe, his new movie, he followed these kids to some of these houses that are some like nasty.
What's that movie called?
I don't know what the movie is called. I don't know James O'Keefe's movie. I don't know what the name of the movie is, but it just came out. I don't know. I know he was just promoting it. But they showed some clips and about.
Yeah, like right in our backyard in LA.
He followed the whole thing. No, it's all right here, man. Mm-hmm. And this is what's scary is that these people are so sick because if you're voting Democrat, you're saying it's okay to do that because the people you're electing are not changing those rules. So, and they've already had 4 years to change all the rules, and they didn't change the rules. So why is that? You tell me, James, why is it that these people have not changed their rules? Is it because they want that to be going on? I don't know. You tell me, man. What other reason is there to leave open the border to allow these little kids to get lost in the system?
I do believe that there is such thing as a deep state that's often talked about. I believe there are some higher powers that kind of control and manipulate things behind the scene. As far as like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris goes, I think hands down complete puppets. And maybe they do call a lot of their own shots. Maybe they do run a lot of the show, but that's because they're being allowed to.
Right.
And because they're being allowed to, like, they get to be made like the fools. Right. Meanwhile, whoever is behind the scenes benefiting from it, they just get to sit back and be quiet.
I just think to me, it's just disgusting to me that, like, nobody's talking about it, man. Like, nobody cares. I mean, me and Paul had a great, if people want to see the interview, it's on YouTube, Daniel Alonzo, Paul Hutchinson. But I just feel like this guy is such a warrior for like what he's doing and what he's saying and what he's talking about and what he's done. And I just think people need to research it because, like, there's no way if somebody knew, and we only have 3.5 weeks until the election, I don't think that somebody would ever vote Democrat again if they knew the kind of shit that they've done to allow this to continue. Mm-hmm. Like, again, just explain to me, how is it okay? If Donald Trump was allowing the borders to be open to allow sex trafficking to continue, because that's the only way it continues. If you allow people in here that are not supposed to be here, and you're allowing little kids to get shipped off on airplanes to all places in the country, isn't that kind of strange, though, if you think about it? Like, that's never happened in human history. The whole time in America, it's never happened like that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a sad time that we're living in because people are like just turning their head. They're like, well, I think Kamala Harris is really nice. I think she's really sweet. It's all
lady. Emotional based. People will be like, oh, well, I need to vote for Kamala because she cares about women's rights, and I'm a woman. I need to.
So you care more. So you care more about women's rights. Like if you're a mother right now and you knew that sex trafficking was happening, you would be disgusted. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of women right now that are watching right now. Like, you would literally throw up. You would be so mad and so disgusted with that. But they just turn a blind eye. They don't say anything about it. They're like, no. She was on Oprah. Oprah likes her. So if Oprah likes her, then she must be a good lady. No. They're allowing the border to be open because two reasons. Number one, they're okay with sex trafficking. And number two, they want more voters that are, and California just banned the ability to ask for an ID. Did you know that? California now, they're not allowed to ask for an ID when you vote.
That's insane. I knew there was talks about implementing that. I didn't realize it got implemented already.
Newsom already put it. It's done. It's already done. It's already a law.
Well, California is a law state anyway when it comes to the electoral college. But
it is. But it's shit like that continues. Like, that's why Elon Musk said, man, if we don't win, if Trump does not win this election, this will be the last election we have. The Republicans will never win another election. Seriously. I mean, that's the God honest truth. So we're going to have a rise in sex trafficking. We're going to have a rise in illegal immigration. We're going to have a rise in crime, because think about crime, right? I mean, you're talking these countries are allowing their worst people. Shouldn't we, as a country, James, say, okay, we're going to allow you in. We're going to have great immigration. great policies, great laws. We're going to allow you in, but you're going to be of value to America.
Yeah.
You're right. Like no other country. Like if you go to Japan, you can't get into Japan unless you speak Japanese. You can't get into Japan. You can't become a resident of Japan unless you're bringing value to the country. There's some countries that you have to have a certain amount of money before they'll allow you to come in. Now, I get it. America's different. We're the land of the free. We want to give everybody opportunity. That's great. That's wonderful. That's fine. But you know what? How about we step back for a second and say, you know what? Let's let people in that are bringing value. There are so many awesome immigrants that are just waiting in line right now to get into America. They're waiting in their country, but they're waiting in line to get in here because they want the American dream. But you know what? How sad is it that we allow all these people to skip the line, right? Just go right past them. And then if the Democrats get in, if Kamala gets elected, there's going to be massive, they're just going to make all these people citizens. You know what I mean? So it's going to be.
And then they're going to have a permanent Democratic voter base.
That's it.
They're going to nuke the filibuster.
It's going to be done.
Yeah.
It's going to be done. And she's already said she's going to nuke the filibuster. So it's already in works to make this a one-party country. And when you look at that map and you see how much red there is, right? I mean, you really look at that map, it's mostly red. It's only blue in the major cities that determine the elections. That's the
and
issue.
where do they ship all the immigrants
where they
to?
ship all the immigrants to, right? And then now what they're doing too is they're shipping immigrants to all these other places that they're trying to infiltrate the Republican voter base as well, to overrun that voter base. So again, it's a huge problem, and it's gonna ruin America. And to me, I think that ultimately there could be a civil war because of it. And
I think that is the trajectory we're headed. Because I mean, besides human trafficking and all the criminals coming into the country, there's some other major things that are on the line for this election. I think arguably the fate of the free world is on line because we are this close to World War III. As soon as Israel went into Lebanon, that is the beginning stage of World War III. That is like Germany going into Poland. And I'm not saying that I'm not comparing Israel as Germany. I'm just saying like this is a stepping stone to a significant world conflict. The war in Ukraine, that's going to expand throughout Europe. The war in the Middle East is going to just flood that entire region. And luckily for us in America, we're relatively safe based on our geography. But the rest of the world is going to be in flames. And with Kamala staying in office, there is absolutely no shot in a reversal from World War III. With Trump getting elected, we have a chance to be able to pull back and fix things.
No, I'm legitimately worried about America because of what you just said. I mean, Kamala Harris does not have the intellect, nor does she have the skills to be able to negotiate with a Putin. Or, I mean, again, and all these people know it. That's why all these other countries, they want Kamala Harris to win, because they know that they're going, I mean, all of this talk about the BRICS and, getting rid of the US dollar and all this stuff that's happening right now, they didn't talk about this when Trump was, from 2016 to 2020, I never heard one time that they're talking about getting rid of the US dollar. But the last 4 years, they're trying to get rid of. So I'm just wondering, and maybe some people can comment, right? I'm just wondering, like, tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm screwed up in my thinking. And I just want to know, like, how could you be okay with that? Like, we know she is not intellectually very intelligent, okay? Let's be honest. You can just
see that on camera.
You can just see it on camera. She cannot have a real interview with somebody and have coherent thoughts and ideas. They're all pre-planned ideas. They're all pre-planned thoughts. I mean, even in the debate, they found out that she had all the answers before, or she all had all the questions before. Donald Trump did not. They just cheat. And they lie. You know what I don't know if this is a right comparison, but I just always think about this. I remember learning about the patriots, right? We know the true patriots, right? The original patriots of the United States. We wouldn't be the United States without the patriots, right? But why are we the United States right now? We're the United States because we beat Britain, or we beat the Brits, right? And that's why we're Americans, right? I mean, the Revolutionary
War,
we're
rebels.
We're rebels. You know what I mean? So how did we do that though? That was they had some of the most amazing armies, right? The Britain had most amazing armies in the world, right? They had fighting force. They knew how to fight. They had strong guys. They had their fighting stances and how they conducted their battle plans and all that kind of stuff. How did we win? How did this little ragtag army, right? Little army. How did we win? We won because we cheated. That's how we won. Let's be honest, right? We won because we did whatever was necessary. Mm-hmm. Anything and everything we did to win. Well, look at this. Look at in 2020. There was a great documentary by Dinesh De Silva. I don't know if you ever saw it. It's called 2,000 Mules. Dinesh De Silva, he did a documentary about the election and how the election was stolen. And of course, anybody's going to say that's just a conspiracy theory. But every other conspiracy we've just figured out is not a conspiracy.
Alex Jones was right about the gay frogs.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about the gay frogs, but what I do know is that all the shit that we've been talking about, right? I knew the mask was bullshit, right? Wearing a mask, that was a bunch of BS, right? I knew the vaccine was going to hurt people, and it hurt a lot of people. It hurt a lot of people. So all the little conspiracy, like the laptop, Biden's his son's laptop,
Russiagate,
all this shit that they said that wasn't real.
And if you spoke against it, you're like instantly an outlaw too.
You were.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. Like people looked at me like I was absolutely insane because I didn't want to wear a mask. They thought like I had a death wish. They thought I was crazy. Like I was kicked out of Starbucks probably 10 times because they didn't. Anyways, bottom line is that he did a documentary. It's called 2,000 Mules. Everybody should go watch it. If you think it's a conspiracy theory that Republicans should have won the last election. And Donald Trump is right when he says that he did not lose that election. Of course, when they went to court, a lot of stuff was thrown out because there was judges that are leaning left. Of course they're going to throw it out.
Yeah.
But let's look at the facts. Let's look at what really happened. And what you're going to see in that documentary is, number one, they pay people to vote. Right? They pay immigrants a certain amount of money to vote in the election. Okay? Even right now, they're sending out letters to immigrants telling them to vote. So the 2,000 Mules, and so
they're proxy cheating.
Yeah, they're exactly. The way that the lines are being drawn, but also like literally on hidden camera. Right? They have cameras on these voting boxes and stuff like that. People are shoving stacks of, and you can't do that, right? You are one voter. Mm-hmm. You only are allowed to vote by yourself. That's how you vote. You put it in the mailbox by yourself, you're voting. You can't go around the neighborhood, pick up everybody's votes and throw them into the dang basket saying that these are all my votes by
ballot harvesting. That's the term.
Ballot harvesting, whatever you want to call it. I'm just saying, like, I remember watching, man. I watched the news. I watched how the Democrats, because of COVID, right? Because of COVID, they shut like a black curtain. So the Republicans, because I don't know if you know this, but when you vote, there always has to be a Republican and a Democrat watching the voting going on. Well, they shut all the Republicans, and I believe this was Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken, but they shut a black curtain so the Republicans couldn't watch them count the votes.
Yeah, so actually last election cycle, Steven Crowder, his podcast, Louder with Crowder, they were the last major media station to close off their coverage of the election.
Right.
And it was when they closed off, again, they're the latest one. When they closed off, Trump was still ahead.
Yeah.
But then, like an hour later, it flip-flopped. And I remember Ben Shapiro, actually, he came out and was heavily arguing that there's no way the election could have been cheated. And Ben Shapiro is super, like, Republican.
Yeah.
You know, he might be a much more mainstream Republican guy, not really aligned with the new Republican Party, obviously. But, I mean, he has a very good set of, like, just factual principles, and he likes to analyze the data. And he was so heavy on saying it wasn't cheated. But then later on, I think maybe like a couple years later, when more information came out, more investigations came out, he even admitted there is a possibility. It hasn't been completely identified with pure fact yet, but there is a good chance that ballot harvesting alone could have changed the outcome of the election. But what is indisputable is the proxy cheating. So like when it comes to social media, like this all came out in Congress, like Meta was pushing heavy to report Democratic content. And that alone can drastically change numbers, especially in some of these swing states when we're talking about only like a couple 100,000 votes to change the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, you know, let's be honest. I mean, Twitter, they lied, right? They shut people down. I mean, imagine they shut Donald Trump out, but they left on terrorist groups.
Yeah.
How is that?
Strange.
It's very strange. I mean, in Biden's debate, the debate that he had with Donald Trump, he said that 45 FBI, high-ranked FBI and CIA agents and all these people, they all said that Biden's laptop was a hoax, and that, you know, it had to have been Russia that did this big hoax
Russian
or whatever, you know, just
propaganda.
Russian propaganda. And so it's just the stuff like this, man, makes you lose a lot of respect for the government and a lot of respect for the Democratic Party in particular.
Well, there needs to be huge major reform across every single government agency. And Elon Musk even talked about this. There's like, 300 and something federal agencies. Elon Musk, his plan, if Trump gets elected, he's going to help him out with this, going to implement it down to 99 agencies, cut off the majority of the fat. And then also with those remaining 99 agencies, introduce major reform across the board, especially for like the FBI, CIA, or NSA, pretty much all like the, you know, federal law enforcement agencies. Holy crap, so much corruption. And like even in the military, I saw a shit ton of corruption. Like I myself, when I was going through like my investigation stuff, I got cleared of all criminal charges. But in the military, what they do if you get cleared of criminal charges, they'll put you in a administrative review hearing. So it's like zero burden of proof, basically. It's like a Banana Republic style court system. So I got to experience just the complete, just disgusting disregard for your basic human rights as Americans in the military.
Because they don't have to uphold a certain amount of, you know.
The thing is, they do have to uphold those same rights. It's just the way the system is designed, there's all these loopholes where there's no accountability. That's the thing. There's no accountability overseeing that process. And then same thing when it comes to these other like federal law enforcement agencies. They over-abuse they over-abuse the rules when it comes to investigations. So it's almost like they're legally allowed to punish you before even charges are formally pressed. That's why you see this new thing of lawfare coming into place. Trump's been indicted so many times, and there's no accountability whatsoever.
Yeah, and everything's been thrown out. So like people love, like this guy I was talking about, he like said so many times like, oh, he's a felon, Well, first of all, he's not a felon because he hasn't gotten convicted of any felonies or I mean, you realize, like, I can indict anybody I want. The government can indict anybody they want. Doesn't mean that you did it. But I could sue you if I wanted to. And I could say you had to go to court because you're being sued. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It's just that I sued you. That's the crazy thing about the perceptions, And so I just, I know we only have a couple more minutes, but I wanted to ask you this because, as maybe a last topic just to kind of throw out. But what I was curious from you is what you thought about the assassination attempt, and do you think that there is that it was, there was much more than just some kid up on the roof that, like, how did he get that shot, first of all?
Yeah, so for me, because I did a deep analysis on this.
Okay.
It's like for my experience in the military, we did like those force protection.
Yeah.
Basically, like you go ahead, like working alongside the counter assault team with Secret Service. So I was part of a lot of the planning operations with them, not just like for presidents, but politicians. Like that's the thing that the force recon community does. So I have a lot of insight as to how those operations are supposed to be conducted, especially at a planning level. And that's the thing with any high level military or tactical law enforcement unit. The planning is the most important part. The planning is more important than the execution. So that was the first thing that I noticed during the attempted assassination was there was clearly not a plan in place. You can tell by the reaction of the Secret Service agents on the ground. There was probably zero rehearsals done. People were utterly confused. Like you hear on the news, they played a lot of the comms communications of the agents and other law enforcement. No one knew what to do. So that tells me right then and there, whatever Secret Service agent was in charge of protecting that venue, put zero effort into the planning process.
But okay, why did they let the guy shoot before they killed him? Because I mean, he shot at the president. The guy already had eyes on him. He had eyes on the guy already.
So he was identified. Now, I'm not ruling out the possibility of a deeper conspiracy.
Yeah.
I'm not ruling that out because I do totally believe that's possible.
Okay.
But 100% beyond the shadow of a doubt, pure incompetency from the leadership. The snipers on the ground, I don't blame them for waiting to take the shot because they have to follow certain ROIs.
So basically, you don't shoot until the guy tells you to shoot. Is that?
You have to get, so as a shooter, this is something, so guy that I knew from the 82nd Airborne Division, he's on the ground in Afghanistan. He got tired of Taliban coming up to him at his gate and executing kids in the head. So the fourth time that it happened, he ended up shooting the Taliban.
Wow.
Morally justified, right?
Right.
He didn't have clearance. He's in Fort Leavenworth.
Wow.
Same thing can happen to a law enforcement or Secret Service agent. If you don't have clearance to shoot and you take a shot, that's potentially decades in prison or life in prison for you.
So
not just career ruin,
absolutely,
but imprisonment.
Yeah.
So yes, the Secret Service is allowed to take a shot if it's a direct threat, but again, the shooters on the ground have to be very conscious too.
But that
is coming from leadership.
Exactly.
Though.
That's
so
ridiculous.
The fact that those Secret Service agents behind the sniper scope had to delay their response, that is not their fault. That is the responsibility of the leadership, not just from the Secret Service, but as well as the political, whatever politicians approve of these rules.
Right.
That's their problem too.
Right.
So I don't blame the guys on the ground.
I just feel like, well, I don't know what happened, but I feel like the guy was saying, "Hey, look, I got eyes on this guy," and why didn't somebody say, shoot him now? That should, and like you're saying, that comes from the higher ups. They're telling him, look, we got eyes on this guy, and this could be potentially a problem. By the time that dude stuck his rifle up and shot, that's probably why he didn't hit him That's probably the reason why he didn't hit him, because he probably pulled up the barrel fast and just took a shot. You know what I mean? He didn't probably sit there and aim for a long time. I don't know. Did he?
Right. Well, with that kid's setup, he's like 150 yards away. That's super easy to do with even like iron sights.
Right.
So yeah, you can lock on target pretty quick. So like even just lying down.
So why do you think he missed, man? Why did he miss?
He missed out of the grace of God.
Do you really believe? Do you really believe it was because he moved right at the last minute?
That is a pure miracle from God that Trump is still alive, because at that range, like taking a headshot, even with no scope, with little experience, is easy to do.
Okay, so why the hell would a rooftop 150 yards out be allowed, to be open like that?
See, this is where the conspiracies come in, because no one in their right mind who is involved in the strategic planning process would have allowed that to happen.
Never.
So clearly there wasn't even even if there was a final mission brief, because that's what it is. It's a mission. So you're going to have pre-planning operations briefs. And then you have so many different ones. I don't know exactly what the regulations are for Secret Service, but I'm sure it's very similar to elite military units.
Right.
Like when I was doing the counter-assault team stuff, we were part of the planning process, and we knew exactly pretty much every scenario. Okay, if a shooter comes from this side, or if there's a bomb threat from this side, then the order of operations is going to be A, B, C, and D. So everyone's under the same page. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows what is being covered. So they lacked a lot of assets on the ground. First off, they should have had much more sniper coverage. Right. Any rooftop within that vicinity should have had at least one agent posted or one cop posted.
Absolutely.
So best case scenario, complete incompetence from the Secret Service, because at the end of the day, the Secret Service is the ground force commander. They call the final shots on everything related to protecting the president. So all the local law enforcement guys answer to Secret Service. So it was the Secret Service fault. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, there's some deeper conspiracy shit, and
which I think if we were all honest, we got to stop thinking that everything is a conspiracy, because we've already debunked all of the conspiracies.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that people told me I was a conspiracy theorist back when, they've all come to fruition. It's all happened.
It's only a conspiracy until it's not.
Until it's not, exactly. So it's let's use our common sense. Let's use common sense as a way to make decisions, not oh my God, that's a conspiracy theory. Oh, our government is so perfect and they would never lie to us. The media would never lie to us. It doesn't make any sense. So anyway, we better get it.
Yeah. Hey, this has been an awesome episode, Daniel. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Awesome.
I want to close this off though. If you had to give one piece of advice for an upcoming entrepreneur to be able to find that success he or she is looking for, what would that be?
Well, first of all, vote Republican. Okay, so that's
that's a great step.
That's the first step.
If you like money, vote Republican.
If you like money, and by the way, I voted for Bill Clinton back in 1992. Was it 90 or 92? But as I started to make money, I started to recognize that you're going to have to protect your money, just like anything else. You protect your family, you should protect your money. It's money is just a tool, but money is an important tool to help you get the things that you want in your life. Do you want freedom? Do you want choices? Do you want options? Do you want a better life? Do you want a nicer neighborhood? I mean, think about the neighborhood that I live in. It's gated. All this stuff that's happening in the world, most of my life is not affected by it. I mean, it's the truth, right? I'm not really affected by a lot of things. The reason why I'm so passionate about these things, the reason why I talk about these things, is because I care about people. And I care about America. And I care about America being a good country and continuing to be a good country. I don't want America to go away. And so I think that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to make sure that you make good choices and you get up every day and you have good habits, man. Take care of your health. Take care of your positivity. Take care of your mindset. Make sure that you're optimistic about things. Make sure that you're that person when you walk in the room, you're happy and you're excited and you're grateful and you want great things to happen and you believe that great things can happen. You know, it's kind of like a feeling like the future's good, man. The future has, you know, good things are going to happen in the future. We're going to make great things happen. And I do get up every day, and you know, so the answer really is all of that wrapped up in one is have an optimistic mindset. Believe that anything that you dream about, anything that you work hard toward, anything that you care about that means something to you ultimately could become your reality. So you just got to keep pushing forward, keep believing. Don't you ever, ever, ever give up.
Amazing advice. Well, Daniel, thank you so much. Hope to have you on again sometime soon.
Absolutely, man. Have a great day.
Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been another Mastermind Monday episode. I know we did a awesome segment on politics too. So if you guys like what you saw, please be sure to hit like, subscribe, drop a comment in the comment section down below. Give me some feedback. If you want to see more political content, hey, I'll make it happen because I personally love it. Let me know what you think of Daniel. If you want to access his channels, we'll be dropping them in the description section down below. So be sure to check those out. With that being said, see everybody next time.